Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
So I'm Warren Fearn, and I'm here today to talk to you and try and persuade you in some ways about extended realities. So it's commonly known as XR. So firstly, what is extended realities? What is XR? What are we talking about here? Because we have all these different acronyms, it can become quite confusing. What is what? So we have things like VR, which is virtual reality, which is all immersive. You're fully immersed. You have augmented reality, which is AR, which is graphics which are superimposed. And then you have things like mixed reality, where it basically can scan your environment. So we have all these different things. So basically today, a good example of augmented reality is something you may have played before, like Pokemon Go. I don't know if anyone's ever played that. But I remember years ago being in Japan with my wife, going around trying to chase these crazy creatures on my mobile phone and capture them, which is a bit of an experience, I must say. So I'm going to really focus today more on augmented reality because that's where my specialism features. So basically, I'm really proud to say that I was born and raised in Doncaster. I went to what I consider was one of the best art colleges going in Doncaster, and I studied fine art. And then from there, I went to university, and I studied design and technology. And that was a great experience as well. So during my career, I wanted to pursue 3D computer graphics, and I moved to London, and I was very fortunate to get a job with the BBC. So I worked in the BBC virtual reality, the 3D effects department, and I worked with a great bunch of people, creating things and doing things. So as you can see behind me, that's a younger version of me. That's about, I suppose, about 5 years ago, but yeah. But anyway, so whilst I was working in the department, I just remember this guy coming in from the research and development at the BBC saying he had these markers. And this is, in the mid-90s. And he said, and he's like, these things are called augmented reality, these markers. So basically it triggers 3D graphics. And he asked me what I could do with them. And it's the first time that I'd ever seen this technology. So I looked and I thought, well, perhaps you could, trigger numbers, you could trigger colors, you could mix them all together. So I think back in the 90s, I recall thinking, well, actually, there's lots of things that you could do with this technology, and there's lots of potential for education. So that got me kind of, my mind going quite a bit. So moving on, after so many years in London, I actually moved back up to Doncaster, and I set up my own 3D graphics company. And I worked with some great partnerships, some great educational, people, great people around Doncaster as well. But one project in particular came in, and that was from a company called Autodesk. And they're a global company, and they asked me to work with them on a certain project. And the project really was all about the periodic table, chemistry. And what we did is we designed these 3D characters, we animated them, and we sent all the pack and information for free across to UK and US schools for students to download. But as part of that, I remember then thinking, well, actually, it'd be great to kind of introduce augmented reality to this project. So I was inspired by an illustrator, a friend of mine called Basher, and we created these characters, and basically they were like top trumps. So you would put your mobile phone to the marker, and one of the characters would pop up and say, "Hey, I'm argon," or "I'm gadolinium, how you doing?" And these are my chemical properties. And it was really cool. A lot of the students downloaded them. They really enjoyed them. And I thought that was a really, great way to do that. So moving on further as well, or fast forward, should I say, to now, I thought I would do a PhD in this types of technology. So what I decided to do is to look at how augmented reality could enhance primary science learning for schools. And so I took the opportunity to do that. So here I am now with a group of pupils based in York from Ebor Academy Trust. I was really fortunate to receive an EPIC mega grant towards the research studies. So most people probably in this audience have heard of Fortnite. Or should I say most pupils or kids have heard of Fortnite. And perhaps most parents have heard of Fortnite actually, and play it. But yeah, so they gave me an EPIC mega grant, which I was very fortunate to receive. And within the grant itself, I managed to work and collaborate with different people from sound artists, designers, educators, pupils, Key Stage 2, everyone about this project. And it was all wrapped around primary science learning and how augmented reality could enhance that in some ways. So it's a great opportunity, and we actually created an application, an AR application using the Unreal Engine, which I think, not many people have done that. So here's also another image of the exhibition itself in the context of the schools. So as part of this as well, we took the exhibition to numerous primary schools around York to gather feedback from both pupils and teachers about what they thought of it. So it did take some kind of putting together and designing. So the actual exhibition, just to kind of explain a bit more about it, is made up of 5 stations, and each station is all to do with the theme climate change. So we've got one station which talks about healthy eating, one station that talks about materials, another one about habitats, etc., and renewable technologies. So the pupils can go around that with their tablets and they can trigger different kind of information. As you can see, we created unique AR markers as well. So the pupils themselves could go up to the markers and they could trigger the information. We did ask the pupils what they thought of them as well. We said, "What do you think of this?" And they went, "It's epic." So we decided to call it Epic Science. So we branded it Epic Science. So as you can see, I've got 2 samples in front of me today, just so you can see that they're made out of cardboard. We did all the graphics for them. So I'd like to invite Penelope to the stage, if you don't mind. So Penelope's going to just trigger one of the AR markers. So please bear with us, and you will start to see what it's about. So you could use a scan marker, and when it sees the code, it would immediately recognize it and bring up 3D content. This example is about kind of cleaning the water, so water pollution, and actually knowing and understanding what should be in the water and what shouldn't be. So this is just one of the examples that we be creative.
Use less plastic so it doesn't harm the environment.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Can we give a round of applause for Pialka? Thank you, Pialka. Thank you. So as you can see, this is the kind of things that we're trying to do as part of the enhancement of teaching and learning. So the one thing to bear in mind is Generation Alpha, the 9 to 12-year-old children. They're basically working and experiencing in different backgrounds. So they're really kind of creating, they're collaborating in virtual playgrounds. So we do have things like Fortnite, Minecraft, and Roblox, where they kind of come together and they have those kind of social interactions. So the one thing, I don't know if you know, but in the UK, 50% of 10-year-olds now have mobile phones, okay, smartphones. So that's quite a number of young kids who've got this technology and use it. So in some ways, the younger generation are already au fait with, hybrid and virtual spaces. They're already in that space now. So just think about this. Just think about, kids who might be at home. And if we start to think about XR technologies, we could have an avatar that pops up on their desk and starts to talk to them about science. They could also have virtual laboratories where you can go in and you can mess things up and you can do things and you won't set things on fire. You won't explode things, So there are all these different benefits to the technologies themselves. So then we get on to also the other kind of applications of this. And what's interesting now is if we start to think about 5G connectivity, it's much faster, it's actually got low latency. So these kinds of experiences remotely are really kind of starting to move quickly in terms of how we kind of interact with virtual spaces. So one thing is, GPS, the global positioning systems, that is now allowing things like AR location. So you can be anywhere around the world and you can literally put your mobile phone up. And if you're in that particular location, you can trigger 3D content. So sometimes you might see things where you see 3D directions on your phone, in front of you, or, augmented. The other thing is, we can trigger things like dinosaurs, if you want, in parks. They won't eat you. They are tame. But yeah, we can do all these types of things in our worlds. The other thing is things like digital twinning. So we can now also mirror real objects, real environments, and make them virtual. So that means that if you've got a real classroom, you can make it into a virtual classroom or a virtual kind of learning space. Very different. And let's not forget also what's up there. I'm not talking about the lights or the ceiling. I'm talking about the cloud. So we've now also got computing clouds where we can access information generally anywhere and everywhere. So that really kind of changes the way that we do things dramatically. So also, working with teachers, working with education, we do have to take a balanced approach. And the one thing on previous studies that I've taken is about attitudes and confidence for teachers. Some teachers have said to us, well, why should we change things, if things already work? What are the benefits of using augmented reality? And we really need skills and up-training to be able to use this technology. And I completely empathise with their comments. What's been really interesting is going around the different schools is that there's not a level playing field. So we have to make sure that the technologies that we're offering are accessible to all and not just a few as well. And we have to think about things like, screen time and safeguarding children along the way. So those are a few things we need to do. So what's been interesting is when we've got into schools and we've taken the exhibition into schools, we've spoken to the pupils themselves and said, well, what do you think about it? What is it you think? And they've said this: it's different, it's cool, it's awesome, it's a unique experience. And it's changed some of the way that teachers think about how they may deliver their experience in education. So I will leave you with this also, that we need to kind of alleviate some of our fears. We need to kind of think about how technology might be a force for good in the right hands. I'm a big believer in that. And we also need to think about what can XR do for you. So thank you. I'm Warren Fearn.